So I was in Texas going to Olivetti School, and all the textbooks for Olivetti were in Italian because Olivetti was an Italian company. So they had three instructors teaching us all at the same time. They stood up there like the three tenors in front of the room, all three of them talking at once. It was the wackiest thing you ever want to see. And then finally, an advisor for the company in Texas, TRW, he came in and he saw the act. And they're up there like dancing and talking, three of them at a time. And I'm like, what the hell is this? I'm sitting there going, you're hallucinating. Well, anyway, this advisor comes in. He gives us all a break. And when we come back, there's only one guy up in the front. And I talked to him later on. He says, what the hell was that? I said, I don't know. This is Texas. I'm not from here. And but the one teacher now is teaching us. And one of the kids asked him about edge connectors on circuit boards. You know, when you get a bad edge connector. So he says, oh, you got to make sure that you use sandpaper, not emery paper, because emery paper has metal fibers in it, or metal flakes, and it gets down in the machine, and it may short it out. And I'm sitting there horrified, because when we would get a circuit board in, and these fingers on the edge connector were sandpapered, or some people put solder on them, all right, to make them thicker. The board went in the garbage. So I'm sitting there going, this guy's he just gave a room full of kids the wrong thing, that when they send their boards in that they've bodged, I'm going to throw them out. So I raised my hand. I said, look, I said, you use an eraser. And he didn't like that answer. I said, an eraser is basically sandpaper, but it only takes the oxide off. And then other kids started raising their hand. I use gold cleaner, you know, and I'm like, oh God, you gold cleaner paste. And you know, when you're on a job, how are you gonna wipe that off? How are you gonna any kind of gold cleaner, Brasso, any of those chemicals? They're an acid. Deox, it's an acid. You have to neutralize that. See, Deox is great. You spray it into connectors, you spray it into volume controls, and you work everything, and it works. Well, 2 months later, a lot of the stuff turns black, and now you have a worse problem. So I stuck with the eraser. The guy basically told me to fucking shut up, okay, in a nice way. And I tried to talk to the students, you know, on break. I said, please only use an eraser. Now, if you look at this edge connector, and it's pretty dark. It's really dark looking, right? Try to calibrate it. I got to get the light the right way. Okay, this has copper oxide. This is a cheap Radio Shack proto board. The edge connector has totally turned oxidized. Okay, so now an eraser. Okay, and I'm going to tell you, when you're erasing the edge connector, okay, try not to have the flakes fall down in something important. I'm going to do part of this. Now, this hasn't been cleaned in 30 years. Okay, now let's see if you can see the difference. See it? It's clean. Didn't have to use Deox. Didn't use sandpaper. But an eraser basically is sandpaper, but it's more gentle. It only takes the oxide off, and you have to do a little scrubbing, you know. And this was my favorite. I can't get these anymore, but this is an ink eraser type, or a very harsh pencil eraser. And you used to pull a string and it gets shorter. This really cuts through the stuff. Now this is really thick, but it's cutting through it much faster on the connector. I don't know if you could see it, but it cuts through the oxide much quicker. And you can use it on gold, okay? But only go a few strokes, okay? And then make sure you, like I said, the flakes that come off the eraser don't get down in anything. There's flakes that come off. You don't want that getting down in a motor or something else. But that's what I wanted to tell you. I sit there. I could sit there anywhere and listen to an instructor, and they would just come up with this stupid thing. you know, use sandpaper because you don't want the emery paper has little metal pieces in it. It might also have bits of diamond in it. But that was like, I'm sitting there going, holy crap. He solved the problem of maybe ruining the machine by getting the emery down into it versus screwing up the connector. So when I would get the board in, you look down on that connector, and if those fingers were messed up at all, that board went in the scrapper. And I would show it to the boss, and they would never, everything had tracking numbers. You could track it back to the tech that's doing it. But I used to get these connectors, they would actually flow solder on all the connections to make it bigger. And then they put it down and the connector goes in and crack the connector. And then I would get the whole machine in, and I have to go in there. And I want to tell you, connectors for like a motherboard, in those days, we'll just call it a memory board, 60-something connections. So you're there with a soldering iron, and sometimes you could take the unit over to the girl, and she had a desoldering tool, and she'd desolder it. You'd order the connector. You make sure you put the connector in the right way because it has numbers and letters, and then you solder it, and then you put it back in, you do a test, and then you ship the unit out. But it's all because somebody decided to put solder on the connections. And these guys that were saying that, you couldn't change their mind. I'm sitting there going, these guys are freaking stupid. They're actually stupid. I'm telling them that if they send that board in like that, it's going to go in the garbage. Didn't even bother them. Okay? Didn't even bother them. And I want to tell you, you can buy these yet. And this is an eraser pen, pencil, or an eraser pen. Okay? And what I do is I cut different tips on the end of this, and I can put it, cut a thin strip, and I can put it in between relays, between the contacts. Move it back and forth. I clean only the oxide off the relay. I also have a Sears miniature file that's made for cleaning contacts on relays for furnaces. I don't use that. I would use an emery board gently before I use that Sears unit, okay? You only want to take the oxide off. And Deox and all them, you know, they'll probably write me a letter or email me if somebody finds this. Oh, our product, your product over a period of time makes more damage on the thing. You know, I didn't document it over the years, but, you know, the guy would say, I sprayed it, it worked. And my dad, oh, here's a good one. My father and my uncle, every television set they would get in, they would decide to spray the tuner. Well, what was the tune-up? No, it's not. The tuner works absolutely fine. You spray Bright Dip, something blue wave, blue rocket, blue something, blue foam, blue whatever. It was blue something, and you spray it in the tuner, and you're only supposed to spray it on the contacts. Well, I watched my uncle and my father do it. They would spray the whole. They'd pop the cover off the tuner, and they'd spray it. And then the person a few months later would need a tuner. Okay. And then the other thing they used to do before the television would go out, they would spray the picture tube with the tuner cleaner and then wipe it down with a rag to clean it, the dust and finger mark. Well, a couple times they've hit it, and it had a safety shield, a plastic safety shield, and they melted the plastic safety shield. And then they would get toothpaste and compound it out, hope the person didn't notice it. Oh, man. Oh, God, the stuff I've seen in my lifetime. But I just wanted to show you what do you use. And go with the erasers. Like I said, I got this eraser pen. I have different erasers. When I was doing my drafting stuff, I realized they had put a lot of these erasers in with the drafting stuff. And this isn't a pink pearl, but I think I do have pink pearls. They're more gentle. I think it's called a pink pearl. Pink pearl? Yeah, pink pearl. This is the most gentle eraser. And this is what I use to clean stuff with. And you're only removing the oxide. That's what you want. Okay? You don't want to remove the gold. And you don't use gold cleaner. Oh, and I'm watching a video, and the guy has an old cartridge that he found or someone sent him, and he opens it up. It's a cartridge for a game, and he's using Brasso on the connections. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, you freaking dummy. Oh, and on top of using the Brasso, he's also got a cleaner. It looked like a piece of mounted Scotch-Brite. So he's using the thing you're supposed to clean the edges with and the Brasso. Okay, well, this was a real tough. Well, in that case, you sit in there and you clean with a little bit of alcohol first. You get all the gunk out of there. Then you go in with you let it dry off. You let the alcohol dry off, and then you work with your eraser. And this guy used Brasso, and Brasso is an acid. And you in the 50s, maybe 60, 62, Twinkle Copper Cleaner came out. And my mother saw it on TV. It was the commercial that was on all the time. And they showed a person putting the pan, the copper pan, the bottom of the pan was copper, and they put it in Twinkle Copper Cleaner, and they pull it out, and it's like brand new. They would take an old penny, and they'd stick it in Twinkle Copper Cleaner, and then pull it out. It was an acid. So I did some pennies, and a week later, I'm like, holy crap, what happened to the penny? And I stuck the penny in Twinkle Copper Cleaner, and then I rinsed it off and toweled it off, put it away, and it totally oxidized, okay? So if you cleaned a penny with an eraser, it stayed shiny for months. You use Twinkle Copper Cleaner a week, okay? That's when it hit me. Use the pencil eraser, and ever since then. But I want to warn you, as you're scrubbing it, pieces are going to be dropping. If you do it over something, it's going to get down in there. Same with sandpaper. All right, don't do it over your project. I did it over because that's what a camera is. Okay, but I just want to show you because as I'm going through all my projects, and there's bin after bin after bin of this stuff, and I'm taking the good parts off. I'm scrapping stuff out. I'm trying to get down to one large bin of keepsake projects. All right, and this thing hit me. I picked this up. This is in pretty good shape. This one was so-so. This is 40 years old. This Vector. It's pretty good. Okay, and then of course the Radio Shack ones, and these are maybe 25, and you can see where I cleaned it. Okay, and that'll stay clean for a couple years. All right, I'm hoping you remember this and do it. You know, there's people that I'll teach them something, and a few weeks later they're totally clueless. Okay, my father was like that. You couldn't fix him. You couldn't fix him. Okay, and like I told you the one story, you go by the same place and he'd tell you 1,000 times, oh, that's where they race midget cars. And I go, yeah, I went there. You went there? You don't remember the story? That's when I started realizing there are people that have memories that are only good for 6 months. And I was around those people. Not senile. They just have very bad memories. I mean, they totally forget what you told them. And the one guy replied today about that piece of plastic that you wrapped the line cord around. I gave one to a guy. He asked me what it was. I was cleaning out a building. And then I went and got him one. He never wrapped the line cord around because after I gave it to him, he hung it in the cellar. And after a few weeks, he even forgot what it was. And one day I asked him, and he didn't know where it came from. He didn't remember me even giving it to him. See, that's what you're dealing with, okay? I have this like super good memory, and it's only good for certain things, okay? If I have no interest, like if it's a history fact, I can't remember, or I don't want to remember. So I don't, you have to have endorphins, and there's a couple chemicals. I just remember the chemicals, endorphin and this other one. And it hits me, and then it doesn't hit me. My memory's going. I'm 70 years old. But I wanted to show you how to really clean a connector, okay? Because you're gonna be maybe working with some old computers, and you'll fall into the I'll just spray it with Deox. Oh, that stuff's so bad. I can tell you giant stories about the guy told me to put the road bed down with water on a train layout, and I did exactly what he told me. It caused all the brass rails to turn black, and then he sold me Deox. And then I was using that, realizing I was getting deeper and deeper. And what I ended up using was an eraser, okay? But I talked to other guys, and they said, yeah, you don't use that ballast with water because it ruins the rails. But the guy in the hobby shop probably never did it. He just was taught that, and that's what he repeats. He sells you the ballast. He sells you the track. He sends you down the path. Because most people bring the track home, the ballast home, and the project never gets really built, okay? I understand that now. I went to people's houses, and they have fishing gear. They've never been fishing. They have a kayak. It's never been in the water. Bicycles. Oh, that's the saddest thing. they kept one person kept pointing at a bike to me and saying to me, "I'll sell you that bike, you know, $100." I said, "That's a Sears free Spirit." Well, it hung on that garage, and like 20 years later, it actually rusted on the hanger in the garage. It rusted because it was regular non-heated garage. So she's looking at it going, "I can't believe that bicycle did that." I'm like, you know, it's a $69 bicycle at the time, and she wanted 100 from me for it. I'm like, yeah, I can go to Sears right now and get one for 79, catch a sale for 59, you know. But that's how people are. They're on a different planet, and I'm on a different planet. But I get the job done. You know, people, can you fix this? Yeah, always have to fix the thing after someone else has bodged it. And bodged is a polite way of saying fucked it up. Okay, fucked it over. Bodged is a nice way. Oh, this is bodged. Oh, look, it's bodged. And then some of the Deox sprayers on the internet, their radios then get sent off to somebody. And I watch the video, and the guy opens it up, and you see him moving his fingers like this, like somebody sprayed Deox through this whole radio. I mean, yeah, into the coils, and yeah, if it works good in the audio pots and stuff, it's got to work even better when you spray it into an IF cam. I think that's it. All right, that's it.